president of Asymmetrica. She is a dual citizen, born in Venezuela, Venezuelan and U.S., has a dual citizenship. She's very, very dialed in to Venezuelan politics. She's live in Mexico City tonight. It's breathtaking, the speed of with what is going on there, and the President Trump recognizing the opposition leader as the new president, and all that's gone on, mentioning it in his State of the Union speech. Vanessa, great to have you. Give us an update.
Great. Thank you for having me on. Always a pleasure. Yeah, it's moving really, really fast. And happy to report, by the way, that someone who works or has been working with us in my company for the last year, also Venezuelan, was appointed 2 days ago by Venezuela's interim president to be his ambassador to Brazil. So I've lost a staff member, but I've gained an ambassador to Brazil, which is our most important Latin American partner, because the new president down there is right wing, very conservative, Christian, and has no patience for socialists, drug traffickers, or anything that the Maduro regime stands for. So that's on a this whole government reshuffling has touched us, and we're very happy and proud of that. It continues to go on. There's more people. The more governments are recognizing the constitutionality, the legitimacy of Juan Guaido, who's the young 35-year-old guy who's sort of inherited the presidency when, on January 10th, when Maduro was deemed not to be, was supposed to be sworn in for a new term. But because the world basically condemned his fake election last year, they said, well, then there is no presidency, so it falls to this guy who's the president of the National Assembly, who's opposition. So more countries are recognizing him. The European Union recognized him after giving Maduro, they said, you've got 8 days to announce free and fair elections. We knew that wasn't going to happen. That deadline came and went, so the European Union said, right, we're recognizing this guy. What's important about that is it means that bank accounts that belong to the government of Venezuela are being frozen. The United States announced that sanctions, any oil acquisitions, any business that's transacted through U.S. bank accounts will now be frozen and held in trust for the interim president Juan Guaido. So it's interesting times. Sadly, what we're tracking, which is horribly sad, is yesterday, a couple of days ago, the United States led the fray along with the Colombian government to put international humanitarian aid right on the border crossing. Because we have about 4 million Venezuelans, more than 4 million Venezuelans who have fled Venezuela and are hungry. And one of the most common border crossings is a place where I went last year called Cucuta, which is just a border town between Venezuela and Colombia. And you cross a bridge, and people go there desperate, looking for food and medicine and carrying their babies and, all their belongings in one suitcase. And the women sell their hair or worse. And so the Americans and the Colombians offered to, put food and medicine there, and the Venezuelan military blocked access. So what has happened is that the military, which continues to back the drug cartel dictator Maduro, is now visibly not allowing access to food to the Venezuelan people, with the food just on the other side. So it's a horrible situation, and we'll see where it ends.
It's beyond horrible. It's horrific, and it's sick. But look, this is what people do to maintain power. He'll do anything in order to not give it up. But I mean, Vanessa, it looks like Maduro's days are numbered, right?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely everybody says that this can't hold much longer. We have had some defections from the military. It's not anything as wholehearted as we would have liked to see. We've had, the military attaché in D.C. We had sort of the consulate in Miami, which sounds small, but it's important because the concept of Miami is a really big deal. And you've had the head of the Air Force defected and went, but you still have a lot of the big military generals still backing the dictator, probably because they're in cahoots with him with the drug trafficking and everything else. So, but absolutely everybody, including banks, professional risk assessment firms, who provide analyses to investors and to banks, they all say that Maduro will have to go in the short term. They're pegging the probability at 50 to 90%, which is the scenarios for him to hang on are kind of imponderable because partly because of the access to money, and as I keep saying, and as the military starts to realize that they start missing paychecks. Because the government has no money, and Russia's like, we're not going to give you any more money. China already stopped giving them more money because they realized this is a bad bet, and have already started to say, listen, when this changes, we'll work with you. To figure it out. I think that they're going to have to revolt. We're hoping that he will see the light, himself, and decide to get on an airplane out before it gets too ugly. The second scenario is his own men bundle him on an airplane, which is what happened in 1958 with the last military dictatorship there, and then the other scenarios are kind of, uglier and bloodier. People are talking about a military intervention. Most people don't want it or would rather not, but when you have people starving and the food visibly just out of reach, it starts to get ugly really fast.
It is quite the turn of events there. For the opposition leader to be mentioned by the President of the United States and recognized in the State of the Union speech, that had to be pretty riveting for people that want Maduro out. Don't you agree?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And also at the State of the Union was a guy called Carlos Vecchio, who has been appointed the Venezuelan ambassador to the U.S., who's basically the same party and very much the right-hand guy, not just of Guaido, but of the leader of that party, which is a long-time political opposition leader who was tortured in a military prison for over 3 years, a guy called Leopoldo Lopez. So, so his right-hand guy has been appointed the interim ambassador to the U.S. because for years he's been, working, trying to get assistance. And he was also at the State of the Union, present there. And I think the United States, the Trump administration has really been very brave and going forward and supporting the people of Venezuela, because this is about the people and the Constitution in defense of the people. And they've gone all in. I mean, the U.S. kind of basically almost can't back down. Statements by Mnuchin, Pompeo, and Bolton, and Pence, who's been very, very vocal and has been sort of the main contact point with between opposition and the U.S. administration. They're really betting on a return to democracy in Venezuela and a defense of human rights. So that's great. I mean, they've been very, very bold. Obama was not so bold, but then the situation wasn't quite as bad then as it is now, hadn't deteriorated to this point. So we're very thankful for that. We're very thankful to the Trump administration for having the courage to see it through.
Vanessa Neumann, I really want to thank you. I really appreciate the insight that you have, and congratulations on your colleague there being named the ambassador to Brazil. That's an exciting event for you, and I know for all the hard work that you've done, and your updates have been fabulous. We look forward to having you back. Be safe. I know you're in Mexico City. That's not always the safest place to be, so be safe.
No, it isn't.
I know.
Yeah, I was at a place last night. I said, I'm gonna bet there's been a few shootouts here.
Yeah, you kind of get that feeling when you're down there, no question about it. So you want to stay out of harm's way. John Fredericks Radio Network, Vanessa Neumann, thanks for being with us. Asymmetrica, we really appreciate it.